Cersei Lannister is one of the most polarizing characters in Game of Thrones. For many fans, she epitomizes cruelty and ambition, making her one of the show's most hated villains. However, an in-depth look at her actions and motivations reveals a calculated leader who made choices consistent with her position, often misunderstood because of the lens through which we view other, arguably less honorable, leaders. Her decision not to march north to aid in the fight against the White Walkers has been widely criticized, but was it really a mistake? From her perspective, it was a coldly logical strategy. Cersei's foundations, a daughter of Tywin. To understand Cersei, one must first understand Tywin. A man obsessed with legacy, Tywin viewed his children not as individuals, but as tools to secure the Lannister dynasty's future. Cersei's relentless drive to prove herself stems from her desperate quest for her father's approval. Her bitterness and ruthlessness can be traced back to being overshadowed by her twin brother Jaime, whom Tywin considered the true heir to Casterly Rock despite his lack of interest in politics. Cersei grew up idolizing Tywin's cunning and learning from his pragmatic, often ruthless, worldview. Her approach to leadership after his death mirrored his philosophy: consolidate power at any cost, trust no one, and ensure the survival of House Lannister above all else. The strategic genius of staying south. When the undead invasion loomed, many fans expected Cersei to ally with Daenerys Targaryen, Jon Snow, and the northern forces for the greater good. Yet Cersei recognized that there was no greater good in Westeros. Historically, alliances in Westeros are fleeting, and victories are not determined by morality, but by preparation and strategy. Here are some of the key reasons why Cersei's refusal to join the battle was a calculated and arguably wise decision. Resource preservation. The armies of the north, the Dothraki, the Unsullied, and even two dragons were unable to decisively defeat the Night King until Arya Stark's intervention. What would Cersei's smaller and less battle-hardened forces have contributed, except heavy casualties? For a ruler, sparing one's army to fight another day is a logical choice. A unified enemy. Cersei understood that if Jon, Daenerys, and their allies defeated the undead, they would immediately turn their attention south. Supporting the north would deplete her resources and strengthen her enemies, leaving her in a weaker position for the inevitable conflict to come. The Tyrion dilemma. Tyrion proposed the idea of showing Cersei a white to convince her of the threat. This plan, however, relied on the assumption that Cersei would act out of altruism or fear, qualities she rarely exhibited. For Cersei, the undead were a problem for her enemies to solve, not an existential threat worth sacrificing her position to address. Tywin's influence. Cersei's approach was quintessentially Tywin. Would her father have marched an army north, risking the Lannister legacy on an unwinnable war that didn't immediately threaten King's Landing? Absolutely not. Like Tywin, Cersei prioritized survival and political dominance over moral choices. Hypocrisy and fan perceptions. Interestingly, fans often celebrated Tywin's cunning while vilifying Cersei for employing similar tactics. Tywin orchestrated horrific events, such as the Red Wedding and the murder of Elia Martell, actions far crueler than Cersei's refusal to join a hopeless war. Yet Tywin's charisma and authority earned him admiration, while Cersei's unapologetic ambition marked her as a villain. Even Jon Snow and Daenerys made questionable choices. Jon's honesty about his allegiance to Daenerys during negotiations with Cersei ultimately undermined the truce effort, while Daenerys later descended into tyranny. Viewed through this lens, Cersei's pragmatism was arguably more grounded than their idealism. What Cersei understood about Westeros. Westeros is a land of betrayals and shifting alliances, where noble ideals are often a prelude to tragedy. Cersei embraced this reality and made choices accordingly. She secured funding from the Iron Bank, which many overlooked as a crucial step in maintaining her war effort. She used Euron Greyjoy and the Golden Company as tools to bolster her position, keeping her focus on controlling King's Landing. She delayed engaging with Daenerys until the Dragon Queen's forces were weakened, knowing time was on her side. Conclusion. Was Cersei really wrong? Cersei's decision not to go north was neither cowardly nor irrational. It was a calculated gamble that reflected her understanding of the political and military landscape. While her lack of compassion or interest in the survival of the realm may mark her as a villain, her strategy was firmly rooted in logic and self-preservation. Cersei's story reminds us that power in Westeros is not about moral victories, it's about who survives. And for a time, she played the game better than anyone else.